Hi, my name is Shivanand Sharma, and I'm the founder of Malcure Cyber Security. Today, I'm joined by Mr. Alan Jones. Alan Jones is the owner and president of Alive Media, a digital marketing company based in Augusta, Georgia. Alive Media serves mostly local-focused, small to medium-sized businesses that grow their outreach through engaging branding and online campaigns. The services include website design, maintenance, hosting, SEO, Google Ads, and social media marketing. Alive Media has been working with businesses, churches, and nonprofits for over 20 years. Alan, pleased to have you with
Thanks
us.
Thanks for having me. I appreciate the opportunity.
So, I and Alan have been working on some stuff in the last 1 or 2 years, on and off, and that's how I came to know Alan. And I wanted to see what Alan does. So here we are. Alan, tell us, what do you do? What are the services that you offer? What exactly do you do?
Well, essentially, we help, mostly local businesses, nonprofits, and churches to increase their visibility online and to improve it. We want to help them to, ultimately for a small business, let's just say, for them, they want a good-looking website. They want to be visible, but for them, the ultimate goal is to increase their business online, increase their business. So for us, we do that by helping them to become more visible, both from a branding standpoint, but then also just to be visible, for example, on search engines or, on social media. And so that involves digital marketing. So typically, if it's online, we do it, everything from websites to SEO, ads, but those are mostly just the tools to reach that end result. And so that's what we try to be solutions focused on, how can we help them achieve those things?
So I guess you've been doing this for a very long time. 20 years is a long time in digital space.
It is. And it started as a side gig, a side hustle for years. And eventually led into my full-time pursuit. So started out more as a curiosity, and this was way back when really websites as a whole were kind of new in the idea of one, and the internet was, even though it had been around for a while as far as users using it, this was in the late 90s, so it was 99 was the first year that we had a paying client, and so it started from there. So
99 is a long time. I mean, there was that cyber thing which was happening, I think, the Y2K phenomena, and then there was this Web 2 bubble burst. I think the market went down for a while, and then I think it started picking up in 2002 or something.
Yeah, exactly. And for me, I was first introduced to them I was first introduced to websites by a friend, and this was actually way back even before that. In '96, I had my first computer. It was an Apple Performa. It had maybe like 32 megabytes of memory. It was so funny. But he had a website he built on his own. I was fascinated by it, and at first I was like, "What in the world? How did you do that?" And so it just kind of made me curious. And so I started out and built my first website, and it was awful. It was ugly, but it was fun to do, and just kind of more of like a hobby, and kind of grew from there. But it was definitely on the starting points for websites.
So how's your team grown? I mean, do you work solo, or do you have other team members, or what?
Yeah, well, for years I worked solo, especially while it was my part-time side gig. And in, I guess, 2013, I launched out full-time in 2011, so 10 years this September. In 2013, I guess I took that entrepreneurial journey where you get to a point where you've reached your ceiling and you realize I need help. And so we've grown our team over the years. We have a mix of both full-time and part-time staff. So we have about 5 to 6 people that we employ, both full-time and part-time. And then also we obviously have relationships with different vendors, depending on what those needs are. If it's a programming job, then sometimes we'll pull in a contractor that we have a long-standing relationship with for that. So,
And so how has business changed over these years? I mean, like the first one is the first job is always a small one, exciting, but the client doesn't want to pay. But then slowly you build visibility and word of mouth, and that's how your services promote themselves. But how has business changed over the years? Have the requirements changed? The type of websites or the requirements that come from the client side, how have they evolved?
Well, obviously, you have mobile that came about in that transition time. When we started out, mobile wasn't even around, and it wasn't a consideration. And then with the advent of smartphones and mobile technology and the need for that, and of course Google, as they've changed over the years in terms of what they rank and all that, it just became more of, it is our first go-to now, pretty much as far as requirements go. But when we first started out, things such as SEO wasn't even on the actual radar. It was more like it was really the Wild West. It was very, you could just stuff a website with keywords, and people did that. Which would obviously, would get you banned now, and blacklisted pretty quick. But so yeah, that's changed. And then business owners have become a lot more savvy in terms of understanding the need for online marketing. It's not just having a website. It's not just if you build it, they will come mentality. It's really, they have started more and more to view it as a real extension, and in a lot of ways, the front end of their business, to a new customer. And so they view it as it's essential to market it, to market their presence online, their brand online. And for some people, obviously that's all they do is online, so it certainly has changed over the years.
Sure. So I remember, when I became familiar about SEO, we used to have this Google toolbar with PageRank, and you could install it in Internet Explorer, and then it would show you the PageRank of the page you're trying to visit. And then there were keywords, and then there was this algorithm wherein the websites were ranked based on how many referring incoming links your website had from several other sources, depending on the authority of the link and all those sort of factors. Now, in recent times, it's undergone a drastic change, and it's not just about search engine ranking. The rankings are also driven by social media. So, does SEO really work? This is a question which I have had in mind. People say blog regularly, do this, do that, but does it really work? What is the most effective way of getting search engine ranks or search traffic?
Well, to answer your question, yes, it does work. And I can say that from experience. For us, we built a lot of our business through, and still do to this day, for example, when we're servicing local clients, they find us on search engines. And so we kind of, walk what we talk. It's a real thing for us. I think the real key is that if it's done correctly, and there are correct ways of doing it. There are obviously white hat and there are gray hat techniques to help your site rank, and then there are obviously black hat, and some people go into that. I'll say this is that if your site has been done correctly, if the SEO processes, if your content, if you've been building that out correctly over time, if you've been building links correctly, if you've been doing social correctly, that over time, even through the algorithm updates, which happen, right now, we're actually we're right in the middle of one right now, and it's going to be a 2-tier one, and it's going to be it's supposedly supposed to be a major one right now. And so people have seen their ranks, go up and down. And usually what happens is those will kind of settle down after a few weeks once things have, settled out, and you kind of see where you're at in that. I do think that obviously with Google and other search engines now that it certainly has changed over the years. But there are certain principles that, if done correctly, are going to be consistently positioning yourself over time in a good way. So I would say, yeah, it does work, but it's really important to obviously be aware of what's important to Google, and that's why it's really critical to kind of keep your finger on that pulse of what is Google, what's important to them. Things like for example, if you're a local business, things like proximity is going to be important, but obviously how you build your brand online is really important and becoming more of a factor. I think you're seeing a lot of, for example, for local businesses that maybe they built their presence on GMB, on Google My Business, using keywords in their name on purpose to kind of try to skirt that. We've seen even this past week, Google has really come down heavy on that. So, but those that maybe have done the right work in building their brand name, even if they don't have a keyword in their name, they're still doing well. So, I think the lesson there is just to do it correctly. SEO, I'll say this, is the long game. It's not going to be oftentimes, you can get quick wins, but it's usually over time. And so if you have a business that's built proper links over time, slowly, at the end of it all, they're probably going to do really well and continue. And they may have some bumps in the road, but I think the lesson there obviously is just to do it correctly. Build your content out, have it written out, have it, be solutions focused, have it not to be, don't have it spammy. Use the tools that are out there to help you with that, but make it really address real questions. That's, is it relevant? That's going to be really key.
So one is the question of authority. I mean, just to brief our viewers about the challenges in SEO. So you got Google, which is the big elephant in the room, and then you got only 10 results on the front page. And everybody is competing for the front page and even the first or the second position. So how tough is that? And how do you set your clients' expectations? I mean, do you tell them that you have to invest for 3 months or 6 months? Or because I'm pretty sure if a client says, I'm just going to be in it for 1 month and that's it for me, I doubt, it's a whole new challenge to show anything substantial in one month. Would you agree?
No, I totally agree. Now, I'm not saying you can't rank. I mean, some people have seen ranks in as soon as 1 week. It really doesn't serve a digital marketing agency well to go out and just promise things right off the bat. Now, they can, we tell our clients we can get you to where you want to be. But, for example, if you go into a market, let's just say locally, and if you're going into, if you're an HVAC company, if you serve air conditioning, or if you're a personal injury attorney, you're going to be going into a market where there is a ton of competition. Those are very competitive markets. And so can you rank for those locally on the first page? Yes, absolutely. Will it take a while? Well, yes. And part of that will depend on, number one, your competition, but also you have to look at things like, has anybody done any work on your site previously or in your SEO previously? And if they did they do a good job or a poor job? Because sometimes, you have to go in there and clean up some messes. And really before you can begin to really see some effective, or really before you start to see progress in there. So what we always do is obviously, take an idea, kind of get a snapshot of where are you at currently, look at the landscape, even doing some keyword research, some initial keyword research and saying, okay, what does this landscape look like? Are you looking to rank locally versus nationally? Those are two different ball games altogether. And the things that matter, and then now, you obviously will see, some consistencies as far as ranking in organic searches versus, GMB results. There'll be some similarities, but we've seen that those are really, in some ways, two different algorithms at times. So I think, yeah, setting expectations begins with a conversation. I think it's all about having conversations with people and honest conversations. If somebody's doing great, we'll say, listen, you're doing really well. I don't know if you need our help with this. You may want to consider more positioning in terms of like Google Ads or, SEO or social media, making sure that's strong. And then there are some where obviously we can see it right away. You really could use some help with this. So it's all about taking an honest assessment of where you are currently, and saying, okay, based on this, we can get you there, but it may take 3 months. It may take 8 months. It may take, longer. So it just depends.
So one of the key things in setting the client expectations is also the budget part of the thing. Mm-hmm. So how do you narrow down to a point? I mean, what are the factors you consider? Is it just going to be do you just go by the length of time you're going to, do the SEO for them, like per month or for 6 months or quarter? Or do you actually, calculate it based on their existing ranks and, how much work needs to be done to achieve a certain goal?
Well, so for example, in SEO terms, now Google Ads would be a different ballgame altogether, but with SEO terms, you do have to look at competition because it may take longer to rank it. But now your monthly, as far as what you would pay monthly, for example, that goes back to that competition level to where you're at currently and what needs to be done. And then also how aggressive you want to be. We have 3 tiers for our packages that we normally quote out. That first tier will get you there, but it may take, 6 months to 8 months. Now we have a pretty aggressive tier, costs more just because there's more involved in the work that we would do for that. But it would get you there quicker, more than likely. So, but yeah, it all depends again on that landscape, where you're at, the competition, what has been done, what hasn't been done, and how quickly do you want to get there.
So is there a minimum set amount of time that you set aside for this task that, okay, this is the investment, this is what we're trying to achieve, and you'll have to be in it for like 3 months or 1 month or something of that sort? Is it a fixed time frame or does it depend on the client?
Well, so for us, for example, we do ours month to month. We don't do, we really want to be open-handed and just say, hey, we're going to move month to month in this. There's a long-term contract. And so we base ours obviously on, how quickly we feel like we can get you there. And then also, how many keywords you want to rank for. That's also a factor. Do you want to work on, your main keywords, and then also looking at things like, long tail keywords. They're going to be supportive in that. So it's really based on, keywords you want to rank for, but then also, the competition in your market and your current situation online. So, but as far as our budgets go, we don't lock you into anything, long term. Mm-hmm.
Let's talk about inorganic SEO or advertising, as we say it. So what is the main challenge with online advertising? I mean, we tried it for a little while and then we realized that we were putting in money and we're not getting results. So what do you have to say to our viewers about it? What is the big challenge? How can they overcome that barrier and really benefit from paid advertising? How long does it take? What kind of budget does it take? How long do they have to be patient before, calling it a day?
Well, again, that's something that really does depend. It depends on, number one, what your goal is. Are you looking for more leads for your business versus, brand awareness? Are you looking for, more engagement with the video? So, for example, if you're doing Facebook advertising, there's going to be different objectives when you set your campaign up and what you're going to receive from that. And that's going to determine, obviously, your daily budgets, and same thing with Google Ads. And it really depends on, again, your market. If you're a personal injury attorney, you're going against people that are, and really depending on the size of your city. If you're in a major metropolitan area and you're a personal injury attorney, I mean, one cost per click can be $50 or more for just one click. And so you can imagine, you spread that out over a month and I mean, there's a significant budget there. So it really depends on your competition, your industry, your location. Are you looking at national? Are you looking at local? So I think it's all about, and even with Google Ads, for example, it comes back to keyword research still. I mean, it's about looking at the opportunities, and there are ways to look at, proper trends to see, okay, this is currently trending. It's related to what we do. It's possible an opportunity. There's like low competition for this keyword phrase. That might be an opportunity for us to really rank for that, And so, it really depends. And I think I would just say it really, for a local business owner or or for somebody that's serving somebody nationally, it's really important to have the conversation and to kind of get an idea of what that landscape looks like before you start into any kind of campaign.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Right. So
what I would say is it can be effective, but it does require sometimes trial and error. It does require, launching a campaign, stopping, evaluating, and then, every time tweaking that, if it's Google, for example, you have to evaluate it as you go along the way. You have to see, okay, are we spending money on keywords that are sucking our budget out that we don't want to even rank for? It's not us. So you really have to evaluate that for certain intervals to see, are we maximizing our budget, and are we spending it in the right ways?
Mm-hmm. Makes sense. So one of the things that I've seen is in the domain that we work in, sometimes or often the clients realize that their Google ad campaign has been stopped, probably because of their website has some kind of a malware infection or some kind of a hack, or maybe their software, maybe their campaign does not qualify, or malicious campaign, and those sort of things. So how do you get around those things? How do you handle those situations?
Well, it's never a fun thing when you have a site that's hacked. It's never fun when you, have to work through that process, because there's always a request for review with your Google rep on that, or trying to get tech support or support of any sort through Google is always a challenge. So, invariably there will always be a time, usually in the course of a site owner, where you will have to struggle with or battle against a site hack. It's just the world we live in. And so, for us, in terms of I think what you're asking as far as your question, it really comes down to just working that problem step by step. Okay, let's first get the site cleaned up for a number of reasons, if there's an issue with that. And then once it's cleaned up, as soon as it's cleaned up, submitting to Google, for example, that this has been cleaned up. And then you also have to submit the, what steps you took. And that can be something simple as, hey, we took the steps to get this cleaned up. And then submitting it to them, they'll run it through their systems. And once it's, but obviously with Google, there's also a process with, Google Search Console, making sure everything's good on that end. So it's just a process. It's unfortunate, but but I will say this, once it is cleaned up, you definitely want to do your due diligence and making sure that as much as you can, you have security in place. You have all the proper permissions, firewalls, all that you can in place.
One of the things that I realized over my work was that most of the sites which get hacked, they actually want to capitalize on the power of SEO of the host site. So, for example, if you're ranking well for certain terms, they would try to hack your site and redirect all the traffic to and most of the times what happens is the client never even comes to know that their site has gone down. I mean, it continues to work fine. You're logged in, everything is working fine. But one fine day, either you receive a mail from Google saying that your campaign has been disapproved, or one of the clients would say, I was visiting your website and it's redirecting, or it started downloading something. And so most of the times you don't even realize that your site is hacked, and the kind of damage it does to your search engine ranks, because the content has changed on the site and Google has already re-indexed all the content, spam, or whatever it is. And then how long does it take to recover from that kind of an impact?
Part of it will depend on how quickly you can get it addressed. That's the obviously there's tons of downsides to being hacked, but one of them really depends on, like you said, how long it's been going on. They can be very covert in their their methods and injecting code or injecting into your database things that you had no clue about. And so, fortunately, when we've had some occasions where we've had some hacks, and even after having firewalls and plugins, applied, whether it's a WordPress site or not, or and secure passwords, all that. And so it can impact your SEO if it's left unattended too long. So I definitely would recommend that as soon as you are aware of it, and that can be things like, if your site's slow, it's acting weird, or, sometimes you obviously will see the warnings from Google and search engines. It'll say, hey, this site may contain malware. And then obviously if you're running Google ads, you're going to know real quick if it's disapproved because of their own scanners that they do in that. So, I certainly would recommend as soon as you can to reach out to somebody like you that works with those, or to get it cleaned up. So absolutely.
Mm-hmm. All right. So moving on to the next thing, the last 2 years, they've been havoc. How have you seen any kind of an impact on online businesses? How has it affected the digital space?
Well, I think it's almost, we see it in our culture overall. We see, people worrying about, identity theft, all of that. It's just so, and even in government levels and higher levels, it's like we've had, breaches in security, and, and you've seen the rise in the cybersecurity industry as a whole. It's become a very lucrative business because it's become a very real issue. It really has changed the landscape of everything, and obviously in particular to websites online. I think it's definitely changed it. It's almost like for us, one of our checks whenever we'll build websites, a custom design website or something like that, or we'll launch a new site. One of our checks now is to when we launch it, to make sure that do we have a security measure in place to help prevent that? Not only does it look good, but is it as secure as we can make it? Once it's launched. So it's definitely added in that next step measure of, okay, have we done our due diligence in helping to secure it as much as possible when it's launched?
Mm-hmm. Wonderful. So other than SEO and paid advertising, what else do you do?
Well, obviously we do website builds. We do custom website design. We also do branding and logos. So if somebody is a new business or they're wanting to revamp their current branding, we work with them to design that. We obviously do that. If they have an existing site, a lot of businesses struggle with time and maintaining their site or updating it, with new information. So we do work with them in terms of helping to keep their site updated in a timely manner. So we do that. We also provide website hosting for clients if they need that. And then social media marketing is something that we do as well. If somebody needs somebody to handle their social media for them, we primarily work with Facebook, LinkedIn, and Instagram for that, and help keep their content out there and fresh and up to date, and also engaging with their users and friends and followers online.
So yes, an interesting thing that you bring up. So some of the times my people want to know what's the difference between search engine, optimization versus, going after the social SEM, social media marketing, SMM. Why would one go with SEO versus SMM, and when to do one, when not to do one? How would you decide? What would you advise?
My advice is to, I always encourage people to, well, first off, in terms of social media, if you're a business, you really want to be engaged where your potential clients are at. If your business is maybe it's more corporate, for example, or it's more, or certainly if it's B2B, then you want to really consider LinkedIn as an option. But I would just encourage business owners not to get overwhelmed either. To start with one and work on it, and then once you feel like you've mastered it or you're in a good cadence, to maybe move on or add in a second platform. But it is beneficial, and there have been mixed, thoughts and conversations about the benefit of social media to SEO. But I will say that it certainly is a signal, and so you should have it as a part of your mix for SEO, and simply, honestly, just in terms of authority and relevance. Both of those things are going to be important. So I would definitely make sure that you're doing that. But I definitely think for a business, you have to really address both. I would say, if you are starting out in business, and if you do not have a big budget to do effective SEO, or if you're in a very competitive market for SEO, then you can start. If it's just a one-person operation, start with social media and start posting on your own for your business, and then and along the way you can do things that are still effective for an SEO as well. If you're a business, and for example, if you serve local clients, start, create a Google My Business page, obviously, start getting reviews, fill out everything that you can on that Google My Business page, and start posting on there, on your Google My Business. Post at least once a week. And so those are things that they can do, and it's not, over time, obviously you want to look at that, and as you get more of a budget, look at how you can, really conquer and dominate as best as you can your niche and your market. Or if you're national focused, obviously that's going to be a different conversation. But you can still do, social, and you can still do, SEO, effectively. And anybody can write out, a blog post. Mm-hmm. I would say this too, just a good thought is to repurpose content. If you create a blog post, you can take that same blog post and you can use it on social media, and you can make a video, and then you can you put it on YouTube, and you can dictate that video and make a blog post, and you can also use it on your Facebook page. So it's like one piece of content that's just repurposed among multiple platforms. And so you don't have to be a rocket scientist to be effective in this space. You just have to do the work.
Makes sense. Okay. So on the business side of things, how do you envision growth? What is your vision for growth? Because I understand as an agency, you have only so much limited potential for growth. You can be a solo person working on projects, and then you grow, have an assistant, and then maybe another 2-3 people who can, give you a hand with other stuff. But thinking of yourself as an IT company is somewhat of a far-fetched dream. You can't have possibly 500 people working for you. So what does growth symbolize for you? How do you understand what does growth mean for you?
Yeah, and I think that really comes back to what your core values are, and who you want to serve. If you are, you can be really effective in your industry. You can be really effective as far as fulfilling what is, your vision for your company. And that may mean for some people very different, outcomes. It may look for you, it may say, hey, if I can have 20 clients that I can really serve well, and help them achieve their goals and achieve our goals by doing that. In doing that, then for me that looks like success. And then for some people, they're like, I want to have branches in multiple cities or all across the U.S. or the world, and and just grow as big as we can. And so here's the thing to think about too, is that with every new level of growth, there are always new levels of challenges as well. And so for a business owner, their question is, and for an agency owner, it's like, okay, how much and which level of challenges do I want? When you get into larger agency life, and if larger agency owners were, to be honest, and you can have a conversation. I've had multiple conversations with people who have agencies that are 10 times the size that we are, and they'll tell me, they're like, my biggest struggle as an agency owner is our personnel. It's not our clients. It's with our employees. It's managing our team. And that's not because those people are bad. It's just a part of agency life or any kind of business when you grow. So there's always going to be challenge. I think it comes down to you as a business owner, whether you're owning a digital agency or a business. You have to define from the onset, what is my vision for my business? What's my vision for my life? And then go from there. Because really, that's what you're going to come back to. What's my vision? Without vision, it just leads to confusion. And so, but if you have your vision in front of you and you can say, this is where we're going, it helps to define what you do. And it's also an anchor on those days when you're like, oh, it's been a rough day. I'm just ready to hang it up. Or I'm just, because along the way, there's going to be times of just discouragement and times of when it's just hard. And so your vision, though, helps keep you on track. So growth for us, it really, we want to serve our clients well. And so, but we also, we don't have visions of growing to a multinational corporation, with, that goes public. That's just not us. And that's okay, because that's not our vision. And so I'm good with that.
Wonderful. So, it makes a lot of sense because, I happen to be on the creative side. I mean, I tinker with code a lot. And I have realized when I get into tinkering, I tinker with everything. For example, if I have to do a podcast or something of that sort, last time it didn't work because, my camera was not working and there was a storm here. But then I thought, while we set it up for the next schedule, why not upgrade a little? So, I bought in a camera and set stuff up, Riverside FM, all this kind of thing. So I tinker with code, and when I get bored, I just realize that I need some creative juices to flow. So I'd probably get into coding new software or something of that sort, which gives me personal satisfaction. So what is it that gives you the personal satisfaction or, which keeps your interest into the business side of thing?
Well, for me, I know that I need to get out and just kind of get into some, when I get too bogged down or get too much, overthinking, I like to get out and just kind of walk. I like to go walk or run. Get a little bit of exercise and get out in nature, and just kind of take a peek at and see, because I'm probably like you in this. That's when I can do something like that. It helps me to kind of recalibrate and readjust, and also those are when some of my most creative ideas come to mind as well. So we have a greenway where we're at, and it's paved. So you have, walkers, runners, bikers on that. And it's just really nice to be out in nature and kind of just go out and enjoy that. So that's what I try to do on a every other day basis, to kind of get those creative juices flowing, but also just to kind of breathe and recalibrate.
Absolutely. So what do you do in your free time? I mean, do you have hobbies, or do you get back to something, or is it just you just want to take a break, go for a reboot sort of thing?
Well, in my free time, I do get out and I walk. I like to watch movies sometimes. And when, obviously with where we're at, sometimes, movies are starting to open back up. Theaters are starting to open back up. And so that's fun. I like to spend time with my family. I like to go swimming. I like to go to church, all those things that are just, family and faith focused for us. So that's typically what I like to do, though.
All right, Alan. It's been wonderful talking to you, and I hope we'll have another interactive session maybe sometime soon in the future. But thanks so much for joining us today, and to our viewers for joining us today. And it's been very insightful, and wish you all the success. Thank you so much.
Thanks for having me. I really appreciate it.